The backyard was alive with laughter and excitement as children raced through sprinklers. Balloons bobbing in the air. It was Carter's 7th birthday party, and the atmosphere was filled with the kind of joy only a child's celebration could bring. The warm afternoon sun bathed the yard in golden light, casting long shadows across the freshly mowed grass. The tables were piled high with cake and snacks, and Carter's friends gathered eagerly around, awaiting the birthday boy to make his big wish. But then, just as the laughter reached its peak, the chatter stopped. A sudden silence fell over the group, as if someone had pressed a pause button on the entire party. All eyes turned toward the gate. Standing at the entrance, framed by the golden light of the setting sun, was a cat, a sleek Siamese cat. Her coat, a mixture of pale cream and chocolate brown, walked calmly into the yard, her tail swishing behind her. She wasn't running or darting about like most cats. No, this cat moved with purpose. Her piercing blue eyes scanned the crowd, her gaze briefly meeting that of Carter, who stood frozen in place, unsure of what to make of this unexpected guest. "Is that a cat?" Aunt Carol whispered, squinting from the side. "How did she get in here?" No one responded. The kids, usually full of energy and chatter, stood completely still, watching the cat as she made her way toward the picnic table where the birthday cake sat. It was as though the cat was determined to be part of this celebration. Not an intruder, but someone meant to be there. No one had seen her before. No one had ever seen a cat wander into a party like this. The house was nestled in a quiet neighborhood, the kind where cats were more likely to stay curled up in windows or chase after the occasional bird. But here she was, walking with confidence, like she had every right to be there. "Don't open the gate," Carter's father, Doug, said, stepping forward cautiously. He had a protective streak, especially when it came to his son's birthday party, but the cat seemed unbothered by the attention. She didn't meow, didn't swipe at the air, or show any signs of aggression. She just kept walking, her ears perked up, and her head held high. There was something almost regal about the way she moved. The Igors, stunned into silence, didn't know whether to watch or intervene. She passed by, her eyes never leaving the cake, until she stopped in front of the picnic table without hesitation. The Siamese cat jumped up onto the bench, causing a few gasps from the onlookers. "She's heading straight for the cake," Megan, Carter's mom, exclaimed, stepping forward with a plate of hot dogs in hand. But the cat wasn't interested in the food. She sniffed the air for a moment, her tail twitching, then turned around and sat down. But it wasn't just any casual sit. This cat seemed to be waiting for something, her eyes flicking back and forth across the guests, as if she were sizing them up. Then, as if to confirm her presence, she nudged something gently toward Carter's mother with her nose. It was a small, delicate item that caught the sunlight just enough to sparkle. Megan looked down in surprise. "Is that?" she began, her voice trailing off as she bent to pick it up. It was a small, pink object, a baby shoe, no more than a few inches long, with tiny white polka dots. The entire backyard fell silent. Once again, everyone's gaze fixed on the shoe. It was as if the entire world had paused for that one moment. What was a baby shoe doing here? And why had this cat brought it to them? Megan's fingers trembled as she turned the shoe over, the tiny name written on the inside catching her eye. "L. Milner," she read aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. A chill ran through the party. Someone in the crowd gasped, and Aunt Carol's hand shot to her mouth. "Milner, you don't mean the—" Megan nodded slowly, her eyes wide with realization. "Yes. The Milners, they lost their daughter in that terrible accident 6 months ago." The cat had not just wandered into the party. She had brought something, a message, perhaps a reminder, of a loss that no one had truly been able to forget. And the question echoed in everyone's mind. How had this cat, a complete stranger, come to hold such a symbol of grief and remembrance? As the party guests murmured among themselves, Megan clutched the baby shoe tightly in her hand, her thoughts racing. The cat had not only brought the shoe, but had done so with such deliberate intent. She had come here for a reason, and now, it seemed, the story was just beginning to unfold. The tension in the air was palpable, as if something far greater than a simple birthday celebration was unfolding right before their eyes. The question remained, what had the cat meant to communicate by bringing this small, forgotten shoe to the party? And what would happen next? The sun had begun its slow descent behind the hills, casting a soft, golden glow across the suburban neighborhood. Carter's birthday party was in full swing, with laughter filling the air as children darted between sprinkler jets and chased after brightly colored balloons. The backyard was a chaotic, joyous scene, paper plates piled high with cake, a picnic table covered in snacks, and the sweet sound of balloons popping in the distance. It was the kind of celebration that could only be enjoyed by children full of energy, noise, and excitement. But just as the sun kissed the horizon, something unusual caught the attention of everyone present. A soft, almost imperceptible meow floated through the air, cutting through the laughter like a sharp whisper. Heads turned, eyes scanning the yard. But it wasn't the children who stopped playing, it was the adults. Everyone seemed to instinctively know that something was different. Something was happening. Then, standing at the edge of the yard, almost as if she had appeared out of nowhere, was a cat, a sleek, elegant Siamese cat with piercing blue eyes that seemed to hold an entire world of secrets. She stood still at the gate, her head slightly cocked as she surveyed the scene before her. Her fur was a soft mix of cream and chocolate brown, and her slender body moved with a quiet grace as she took a few tentative steps toward the party. The children froze, eyes wide, mouths agape in all their years of birthday parties. Never had they encountered a cat strolling into the middle of the celebration. The cat's presence was quiet yet commanding, like she was part of the party but had arrived on her own mysterious terms. "Is that a cat?" Aunt Carol whispered, her eyes narrowing as she squinted toward the gate. "How did she even get in here?" Everyone looked at each other, unsure of what to do. The children, who had been running wild moments before, were now completely still, their attention fixed on the cat. They didn't speak, they didn't move, they just watched. The cat didn't seem in any rush. She simply walked into the yard, her paws making no sound against the soft grass. With a flick of her tail, she moved toward the picnic table, where Carter's birthday cake was resting, untouched and waiting for the birthday boy to make his wish. But the cat wasn't interested in the cake, or the pile of gifts, or the excitement of the children. She didn't rush to the food or the festivities. She walked with purpose, as though she knew exactly where she was headed. Megan, Carter's mother, stepped forward, trying to coax the cat closer with a small treat she held in her hand. "Hey, kitty," she said softly, but the cat just glanced at her, then turned her attention back to the table. The party guests began to murmur amongst themselves. Some were curious, others uncertain. Megan had never seen this cat before, and neither had anyone else. This wasn't just any stray cat, there was something unusual about her. Her movements were deliberate, measured. She wasn't nervous or aggressive like some other cats might be. She was calm, collected, and completely unfazed by the crowd surrounding her. "Don't open the gate," Doug, Carter's father, said quietly, stepping closer to the gate as if to prevent any accidental movement. He was cautious, protective, especially when it came to his son's special day. But the cat was undeterred. She didn't seem to notice the human's watchful eyes. She continued her slow, steady journey toward the center of the yard. The cat stopped at the picnic table, sniffing the air, then sitting down beside the cake, as if she had every right to be there. She wasn't asking for attention or food. No, she was waiting, as though something had let her hear something important, and then, as if to draw attention to her presence, the cat lowered her head and gently nudged something with her nose. It was a small, delicate object, a baby shoe, light pink with tiny white polka dots, resting just beside the edge of the table. Megan gasped. Her hand flying to her mouth, she slowly knelt down to pick it up, her fingers trembling as she examined the shoe. "Is this a baby shoe?" she whispered, her voice shaking slightly. She turned the shoe over in her hand, looking for a clue, anything that could explain why this cat had brought it to them. The guests had gone completely silent. The party, which had once been full of laughter and chatter, was now holding its breath. Everyone stared at the tiny shoe, their minds racing, trying to make sense of it. Megan squinted as she turned the shoe over. "Again, it has a name," she murmured. "L. Milner." The words hung in the air like a fog. The silence deepened. Aunt Carol took a step back. "Milner, that's the name of the family who'd lost their daughter, the little girl, the one who—" "Yes," Megan whispered, her hand still clutching the shoe. 6 months ago. The tragic accident. I remember. The entire town mourned. A somber hush fell over the crowd as the connection between the cat, the shoe, and the Milner family became painfully clear. This cat hadn't simply wandered into a party by chance. She had come for a reason. The mystery was unfolding, and everyone could feel it. This cat, this simple Siamese cat, was carrying something far heavier than anyone had expected. And as the party guests stood frozen in place, their thoughts flooded with questions, one thing was certain: whatever had brought the cat here was far from over. The days following the birthday party had been quiet. The initial shock of the Siamese cat's unexpected arrival at the party had worn off, but the mystery surrounding the small pink baby shoe remained. Megan couldn't shake the image of the cat's calm demeanor, the way she had carefully nudged the shoe toward her, as though she was asking someone to notice. The following afternoon, as Megan sat in the kitchen, the shoe still clutched in her hand, she found herself lost in thought. Did it mean? Why had the cat brought the shoe? It wasn't just a random object. There was a story hidden in that little piece of fabric and thread, and Megan couldn't help but feel that the cat, in some strange way, knew it. The cat had come, delivered her message, and then disappeared just as quietly as she had arrived. Whiskers, as Megan had taken to calling her, had been absent from the yard ever since that day, leaving no trace behind, almost as if she had never existed yet. Every time Megan looked at the shoe, she could feel the weight of its significance. There had to be more to this. Megan had called animal control, not to take the cat away, but simply to check for a microchip. The officer, an older gentleman named Rick, had been kind but thorough as he scanned the cat's fur with the scanner. No chip, he had confirmed, raising an eyebrow. This cat's a mystery. "All right." Megan had let out a deep breath, trying to suppress her growing frustration. "I just don't understand," she murmured. "Why did she bring this to us?" That evening, as the sun began to set and the shadows stretched long across the backyard, Megan sat on the porch, the shoe resting on the table beside her. Carter had gone to bed early, his energy finally running out after a day full of play, and the house had returned to its quiet state for a moment. it felt like the world had gone still, as if everyone was holding their breath. It was then that she saw her again. Whiskers, the Siamese cat, appeared at the edge of the yard, her silhouette dark against the dimming sky. Megan's heart skipped a beat as she stood up. The cat moved slowly, deliberately, toward the porch where Megan sat, her tail swishing gently behind her this time. There was no hesitation in her step, no lingering at the fence, no looking back. She was coming toward Megan with purpose. Her blue eyes locked onto her. Megan's breath caught in her throat as the cat reached the porch and jumped up onto the railing, her eyes never leaving Megan's. It was as if she was waiting for something, waiting for Megan to acknowledge her. And just like that, Megan knew the cat wasn't just a random visitor. She was here for a reason. She took a slow step forward, reaching her hand out to the cat. Whiskers didn't shy away. Instead, she leaned into Megan's touch, her fur soft under Megan's fingertips. For a moment, the two of them simply stood there, connected by the silence, by the strange bond that had formed between them. Megan knelt down to the cat's level, her heart pounding. She couldn't explain it, but something deep inside her told her that Whiskers knew something about the shoe, about the Milner family, and maybe even something about the pain that still lingered in their lives. The cat didn't meow, didn't beg for attention. She just sat there, calm and composed, her eyes steady, as if she had all the time in the world to wait for Megan to understand. "Are you trying to tell me something?" Megan whispered, her voice barely audible in the stillness of the evening. The cat blinked slowly, her gaze never wavering. It was almost as if she was asking Megan to follow her, to discover what it was that she had brought. Megan's heart raced as she realized that this was no ordinary cat. She had a purpose, and Megan, in some strange way, was meant to be a part of it. Just then, Carter's voice called out from inside the house, "Mom, where's my birthday present?" Megan turned, glancing at the door for a brief moment before looking back at the cat. Whiskers remained still, watching her, waiting. "I'll be right there," Megan called back to Carter, then turned her attention to the cat once more. "You want me to go with you, don't you?" Whiskers blinked again, and Megan, almost without thinking, stood up. The decision felt right. Something inside her told her that she had to follow the cat, that this was the next step in the mystery that had begun with a simple baby shoe. With one last glance at the house, Megan followed Whiskers as she padded down the porch steps, leading her to the far side of the yard, past the bushes and the old maple tree. Megan's footsteps were steady, her breath even as she followed the cat's trail. Whiskers moved confidently, as if she knew exactly where she was going, as if she had done this before. They reached the far corner of the yard, where a small gate led into the alley behind the house. Whiskers stopped there, turning to face Megan with a look that seemed to say, "This is where it begins." Megan paused, her mind racing. She glanced down at the shoe still clutched in her hand, its weight now symbolic of the journey ahead. What was she about to uncover? What was Whiskers leading her toward? The answer, she knew, was waiting just beyond the gate, and with a deep breath, she stepped forward, the sound of her footsteps blending with the soft swish of the cat's tail as they both moved into the unknown. The following morning, after the unsettling discovery of the baby shoe, the house fell back into its usual rhythm. Megan, however, couldn't shake the image of the Siamese cat. Whiskers, as she had decided to call her, had disappeared from the backyard just as suddenly as she had appeared. But the cat's message, the baby shoe with the name L. Milner, lingered in Megan's thoughts, heavy like a stone at the bottom of a well. Megan tried to focus on Carter's birthday aftermath, organizing the presents and cleaning up the yard, but her mind kept wandering back to that moment, to the silent understanding between her and the cat. Why had Whiskers brought the shoe to them? Why had she chosen this moment? Something inside Megan told her that this was only the beginning of something far bigger than she could imagine. Days passed, but the cat did not return. Megan's curiosity grew with each passing hour. She found herself walking to the backyard more often, peering through the gate to see if the cat had returned. She even checked the alleyway behind the house, half hoping to spot Whiskers as she had that fateful day on. Then, on the fourth evening after the party, it happened. Megan was sitting on the porch when a soft meow echoed from the yard. She froze, her heart leaping into her throat. The sound was unmistakable. Whiskers. Megan turned sharply, her eyes scanning the yard. There, at the far corner of the garden, under the old maple tree, stood the cat this time. However, something was different. Whiskers wasn't standing still, as she had been the last time Megan saw her. No, she was pacing, slowly at first, then more urgently, as if calling Megan to follow. Megan's pulse quickened without a second thought. She stood up and moved toward the gate. She opened it. The cat turned and walked into the alley, her tail flicking back and forth, eyes alert and focused on something ahead. It was as if Whiskers had a destination in mind, something calling her forward. Megan followed, a mixture of anticipation and confusion flooding her senses. The cat moved with quiet confidence, her paws barely making a sound on the pavement. Megan's thoughts raced. What could this mean? Why had the cat come back? And where was she leading her? They walked through the quiet alleyway, the trees casting long shadows on the ground. The neighborhood was calm, the only sound being the distant hum of a car engine and the occasional chirp of crickets. But Megan wasn't paying attention to the world around her. She was focused on the cat. Whiskers stopped in front of an old, abandoned house that Megan hadn't even realized was there. The windows were boarded up, the yard overgrown with weeds, and the fence sagging as if the house had been forgotten by time itself yet. There was something strangely compelling about the place, as if it was calling to the cat. Whiskers sat down at the base of the old fence, her eyes never leaving the house. Megan felt a chill run down her spine. It was clear now. The cat had come here for a reason, but what was it? Megan knelt down, her voice a soft whisper. "What is it, Whiskers? What do you want me to see?" The cat didn't respond with words, of course, but her gaze, so intense and unwavering, seemed to beckon Megan closer. Megan stood up, feeling the pull of curiosity stronger than ever. She stepped toward the house, her feet carrying her forward as if guided by an invisible hand. Whiskers followed closely behind, her tail flicking in the air with an almost deliberate rhythm. Megan reached the gate, which creaked as she pushed it open. The yard was eerily silent, the air thick with the scent of old wood and damp earth. Whiskers brushed past her, moving toward the overgrown path that led to the back of the house. Megan hesitated for a moment, then followed. The backyard was a neglected mess of weeds and discarded items, rusted metal cans, broken furniture, and piles of leaves that had long since turned brown. But there, in the far corner of the yard, was something that stopped Megan in her tracks. It was a small wooden box, partially buried under a pile of fallen branches. Whiskers had already made her way to it, her paws tapping lightly against the wood. The cat's behavior was unmistakable. Now this was what she had been leading Megan toward. Megan crouched down, her heart pounding. She gently moved the branches aside and uncovered the box. It was old, its wood weathered with time, but the lock was still intact, as though it had been sealed shut for years. The cat sat beside the box, watching Megan intently, her eyes filled with an unspoken understanding. Megan reached out, her fingers trembling as she tried to open the box. The lock was stubborn, but after a few attempts, it gave way with a soft click. The lid creaked open. Inside, Megan found a stack of old photographs, each one faded with age. Her breath caught in her throat as she picked up the first one. It was a picture of a small child, no older than 2 or 3, sitting on a swing. The child's face was filled with a bright, innocent smile, their hands gripping the chains tightly, and beside the child, standing in the shadows, was a familiar figure. Whiskers. Megan's heart skipped a beat. How had this cat been involved in these memories? Why had she led Megan here? Her hands trembled as she flipped through the photos, each one showing the same child, each one with Whiskers by her side. The bond between them was undeniable. A silent story captured in these photographs. There was no name on the photos, no identification, only the unmistakable presence of the cat. Megan felt as though she had stumbled onto something deeply personal, something that had been waiting to be discovered. But what did it all mean? Before Megan could gather her thoughts, Whiskers nudged her gently, as if urging her to keep going. Megan stood up, the photos still in her hands, and turned to the cat. "What is all of this?" she whispered. "Why did you bring me here?" Whiskers didn't respond with words. Of course, she simply padded toward the back of the house, as if inviting Megan to follow her deeper into the mystery. And Megan, her mind racing with questions, didn't hesitate. She followed the cat, knowing that this was only the beginning of the journey. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden light across the yard, Megan felt a sense of purpose settle within her. Whatever this was, whatever this cat was trying to show her, it was more than a simple discovery. It was a message, a story that was waiting to be told, and Megan knew, without a doubt, that she was meant to uncover it. The days following the discovery in the old backyard had been both unsettling and strangely hopeful. Megan couldn't shake the images from her mind. The photographs of the little girl and the cat, Whiskers, always by her side. The small wooden box hidden in the yard had been a turning point, but it left Megan with more questions than answers. Who was the child in the photos? What was Whiskers' connection to her? And why had the cat chosen to reveal this hidden past? Megan had tried to return to normalcy, but it wasn't easy. The mystery of the cat weighed heavily on her, and she couldn't help but feel that Whiskers was still guiding her, still showing her the way toward something bigger. It was late one afternoon when Megan's curiosity finally led her back to the old house. She knew she had to go back to find out more. Whiskers had been missing for a few days, and Megan felt the pull of the cat's unspoken invitation. The backyard, once quiet and abandoned, now felt like a place where secrets lay just beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. This time, Megan didn't come alone. She brought Carter along, who had grown attached to the mystery of the cat in his own way. They walked down the familiar path to the abandoned house, the air cool and crisp as autumn began to settle and the leaves crunched underfoot, and the distant hum of the neighborhood felt far away, as though they had stepped into another world entirely. As they approached the gate, Megan noticed something different. Whiskers was waiting there, perched on the top of the gate, her eyes glowing in the low light. The cat was looking directly at them, as if she had been waiting for their return. "Whiskers," Carter said quietly, his voice filled with wonder. He had been fascinated by the cat ever since the party, and he had always believed there was something special about her. Megan smiled softly as the cat jumped down from the gatepost and padded toward them with purpose, her tail flicking gently behind her. The cat led them down the familiar alley and back to the yard, where the old wooden box still lay, its contents hidden inside. But this time Whiskers didn't stop there. She moved past the box, walking to the overgrown corner of the yard where the trees grew thick and the shadows were deep. Megan felt a chill run down her spine. but she trusted the cat she had too. Let's follow her, Megan said to Carter, her voice steady despite the unease that bubbled inside. Her whiskers moved gracefully, her movements smooth and purposeful, as if she were leading them on a mission. Megan and Carter followed in silence, their footsteps soft against the earth. The farther they went, the quieter the world around them became, until all they could hear was the gentle rustle of leaves and the sound of Whiskers' paws on the ground. Finally, they reached a small clearing, tucked away behind a thicket of trees. The air here was different, thick, almost heavy, as though the ground itself was holding its breath. Whiskers stopped in the center of the clearing and turned to face them. She sat down, her eyes fixed on something in the distance. Megan and Carter exchanged a glance. They both knew that whatever Whiskers was trying to show them, it was about to be revealed. Megan stepped forward, her heart racing. What was the cat leading them to this time? As if in answer to her unspoken question, Whiskers padded toward a large, old tree at the far end of the clearing. Megan and Carter followed closely behind, their eyes scanning the ground, and then, there it was, a small patch of earth had been disturbed. The dirt was loose, and the ground seemed to have been recently dug up. Megan's breath caught in her throat as she knelt down, her hands trembling slightly as she brushed aside the soil. Beneath the dirt was a small, faded metal box, its surface rusted with age. Whiskers sat patiently beside the hole, her gaze steady, waiting. Megan slowly pulled the box from the ground, her fingers shaking as she turned it over in her hands. There was no lock, a simple, unmarked box that seemed to hold a lifetime of secrets within it. What is this? Megan whispered, her voice barely audible. Carter's eyes were wide with curiosity. Open it, Mom, with a soft sigh. Megan pried the box open. Inside, she found more photographs, this time different from the ones she had seen before. These pictures were worn, faded at the edges, and some were torn, but the images were clear. A young girl, smiling brightly, playing in a yard with Whiskers by her side. The photos were filled with joy and laughter, the bond between the cat and the child unmistakable. But it was the last photo that caught Megan's attention. It was a picture of the girl holding Whiskers in her arms, her face pressed against the cat's soft fur. The smile on her face was pure, innocent, and happy, but there was something in the background. A figure, blurred, standing just beyond the fence. Megan's heart skipped a beat. Who is that? She whispered. Carter leaned in closer, his eyes squinting at the image. Mom, look at the shadows. That's the same house, the one we saw the first time with the shoe. Megan nodded slowly, her mind racing. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fit together, but there was still so much left to uncover. The girl, the cat, the house, it all pointed toward something deeper, something connected to the past. But what? Before Megan could gather her thoughts, Whiskers stood up and began to walk toward the edge of the clearing, her tail held high. She paused for a moment, looking back at Megan and Carter, as though she was waiting for them to follow, and, without a word, Megan and Carter stood up, following the cat once more. Whiskers led them back through the yard and toward the old house. As they passed by, Megan couldn't shake the feeling that this was the last piece of the mystery. Whatever had happened here, whatever had been hidden, was finally about to be revealed. When they reached the front door of the house, Whiskers paused, turning to face them one last time. Her eyes glowed in the dim light, and for a moment, it felt as though she was saying goodbye. Megan knelt down, her voice soft. Thank you, Whiskers, she whispered. You've shown us more than we could ever have imagined. The cat didn't respond. She simply turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the house, leaving Megan and Carter standing there, stunned by what they had just uncovered. But as they stood there in the fading light, Megan knew that the journey wasn't over. The cat had led them to this point, but there was still more to the story, a story that only she, the cat, could truly understand. The days had passed since the discovery of the hidden photos, and the air in Megan's house had changed. There was a stillness, a quiet that wasn't there before. Megan had spent hours in the backyard, pondering over the cat's mysterious actions, her connection to the past, and what Whiskers had been trying to show her. The house felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for something. It was the kind of waiting that gnawed at the edges of her mind, urging her to act. But there was no clear path forward, no definitive answer. Megan sat at the kitchen table, staring out the window at the backyard. Carter had gone to bed early, worn out from a day full of play. The house was quiet, except for the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. For a moment, she allowed herself to let her thoughts wander. What had Whiskers truly been trying to convey? The photos? The baby shoe? The strange journey into the woods? It all felt like a puzzle. But there was one piece missing then, just as the thought crossed her mind. The familiar sound of a soft meow echoed from the yard. Megan's heart skipped a beat. She turned toward the door, instinctively knowing who it was. Whiskers had returned. She quickly stood up, her legs slightly trembling. For the first time in days, she felt a sense of clarity. The cat had come back. It was as if Whiskers had been waiting for this moment too, waiting for Megan to understand what she had been trying to show her. Megan opened the door to find Whiskers sitting on the porch steps, her blue eyes glowing softly in the evening light. Whiskers, Megan whispered, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and relief. The cat didn't move, but her gaze locked with Megan's, a silent communication passing between them. The bond that had begun with the baby shoe and the photographs was now complete. Whiskers had led Megan on this journey for a reason, and it was time for that reason to be revealed. Megan stepped outside. Closing the door softly behind her, the air was cooler now. The evening sky, a deep indigo Whiskers, stood up and began walking toward the edge of the yard, her tail held high, her body moving with purpose. Megan followed, her feet moving almost automatically, as if she had no choice but to follow the cat wherever she led. The journey through the yard was quiet, peaceful. It was as though the world itself had paused, giving them space to finish what had been started. Whiskers stopped at the base of the old oak tree, the same tree where Megan had found the baby shoe weeks ago. The tree had always seemed ordinary, a simple landmark in the backyard. But now, in the moonlight, it seemed more significant, as though it held the weight of everything Whiskers had been trying to show her. Whiskers turned to face Megan, her eyes glimmering in the dim light. Then, the cat began to climb the tree with the same ease and grace she had shown throughout the entire journey. Megan hesitated for a moment, then followed. The branches creaked under their weight, but neither of them seemed to mind. Megan felt no fear, no hesitation, just the desire to see this story through to its end. At the top of the tree, nestled between the branches, was something Megan had not expected: a small wooden box, partially hidden by leaves. Whiskers was already there, sitting beside the box, her eyes watching Megan intently. Another box. Megan whispered to herself. It felt like a message. It felt like Whiskers had brought her to this moment, to this very tree, for a reason. Megan gently reached for the box, her fingers trembling as she opened it. Inside were more photos, more mementos from the past, images of the same little girl, the one from the pictures in the yard. But there was something new in the box, something that made Megan's breath catch in her throat. A small, faded letter lay at the bottom, its edges worn, its paper yellowed with age. Megan unfolded it carefully, reading the words that had been written long ago. "I'm sorry for leaving you. My dear cat, I know you will always watch over me. I'll see you again someday. Please don't forget me." Megan's heart clenched as she read the letter, and in that moment, everything fell into place. The girl in the photos had been Whiskers' companion. She had been the one who loved the cat, who played with her and took care of her. And when the girl had passed away, Whiskers had stayed waiting, watching. Remembering the connection between the cat and the girl was deeper than anyone could have known. It wasn't just about a missing shoe or forgotten photographs. It was about love, loss, and the bond that remained even after death. Megan closed the box gently, her heart heavy with the realization Whiskers had been more than just a stray cat who wandered into a party. She had been the guardian of the past, the keeper of memories, and now, she was finally at peace. Whiskers turned her head and looked at Megan one last time, as if to say goodbye. Then, she slowly descended the tree, her movements graceful and serene. Megan watched her, a deep sense of gratitude welling up inside her. Whiskers had given her more than answers. She had given her closure, peace, and understanding. As the cat disappeared into the shadows of the yard, Megan felt a strange calm settle over her. The journey had ended, and yet, somehow, it felt like it was just the beginning. The cat had found her purpose, and now, Megan had found hers. The two of them, bound by the mysteries of the past, had shared a moment that would never be forgotten. Megan stood there for a long while, the night growing colder around her. The sound of leaves rustling in the breeze was the only noise she knew. Without a doubt, that the bond between them would remain forever, silent, enduring, and unspoken, but deeply felt. The days that followed Whiskers' mysterious appearance at Carter's birthday party had been full of reflection. Megan found herself constantly drawn to the backyard, the same place where everything had started. The strange encounter with the Siamese cat and the baby shoe had opened up something deep within her. It wasn't just about a lost object or an unexpected visitor. No, this was about something much bigger, a story woven between the past, the present, and the unseen world that lay somewhere between. Megan couldn't help but wonder if the cat had been waiting for her to understand, to be ready for the truth. Every time she thought about Whiskers, the puzzle pieces seemed to fall into place. One by one, the photographs, the shoe, the silent bond between the cat and the Milner family, it was all connected in ways that Megan could never have imagined. But what made it all so real was that Whiskers had been the thread that tied everything together, the living bridge between what had been lost and what still remained undone. One morning, as the world outside her window awoke to a new day, something extraordinary happened. Megan had woken up early, the soft light of dawn casting a golden hue across the room. She went through her usual routine, preparing breakfast for Carter, who was still fast asleep. But as she moved through the house, a strange feeling began to settle over her, a quiet anticipation that she couldn't explain. The front door creaked open. Megan paused there. Standing in the doorway was Whiskers. The cat was back. Megan's heart leaped. There was something different about Whiskers now, something calm and resolute, in the way she stood there, as though she had come to say goodbye, or perhaps to offer one final piece to the puzzle that had consumed Megan's thoughts for so long. Without thinking, Megan moved toward the door. She crouched down, her eyes meeting Whiskers' piercing blue gaze. The cat's stare was steady, almost knowing, as though it held the wisdom of years past. Megan slowly extended her hand, her fingers trembling slightly. As she reached out to touch the cat, Whiskers didn't flinch. She simply stepped forward, nuzzling Megan's hand with an affectionate purr. It was as if she were reassuring Megan that everything was going to be okay. Megan smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. She knew, deep down, that Whiskers had been more than just a stray cat. She had been a guide, a silent companion through the darkness, and now, it seemed, Whiskers had found what she had been looking for: peace. "I've been waiting for you," Megan whispered softly, though she knew the cat couldn't answer her in words. The connection between them had been made long ago, and this was just another chapter in their shared journey. As Whiskers sat by Megan's feet, the two of them lingered in the quiet, the world outside fading away. The tension and mystery that had gripped Megan for so long seemed to dissipate in the cat's presence. It was as if, with Whiskers' return, everything had come full circle. The baby shoe, the photographs, the strange connection to the Milner family, it was all leading to this moment. Whiskers had been the key to unlocking a forgotten chapter in someone's life, a story that had been left behind but never truly forgotten. Megan gently picked up the cat, cradling her in her arms. Whiskers rested her head against Megan's chest, her purring soft and steady. "Thank you," Megan whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "You've helped me understand more than I could have ever imagined." And in that moment, as Megan stood there in the soft morning light with Whiskers in her arms, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. There would be no more questions, no more wondering. The cat had done what she had come to do. She had shown Megan the way, led her to the truth, and helped her find the closure she had been searching for. But as Megan held Whiskers close, she knew there was something else. The bond between them wasn't just about solving a mystery or uncovering the past. It was about connection. It was about the way lives intersect in ways we can't always see or understand sometimes. The most important moments in life are the ones that go unnoticed, the ones that happen in the quiet corners of our world, just waiting to be discovered. And Whiskers had made sure that Megan found those moments. As the morning sun rose higher in the sky, Megan stepped outside with Whiskers still nestled in her arms. She stood at the edge of the yard, looking out over the garden. The world felt different now, calmer, more meaningful. The past and the present seemed to merge, the boundaries between them blurred, and for the first time in a long while, Megan felt connected to something bigger than herself. She looked down at Whiskers, who had closed her eyes, content in Megan's embrace. The cat's journey had come to an end, but Megan's had just begun. She understood now that sometimes the answers we seek don't come in the way we expect. They come through connections, through the love of a cat, through the silent understanding shared between two souls, through the quiet moments that we often overlook. With one last look at the yard, Megan turned toward the house. Whiskers, her faithful companion, still nestled in her arms, had shown her a path to healing, a path to understanding, and though the journey had been long and filled with uncertainty, it had led them here to this quiet, peaceful moment, where the past was no longer a weight, but a memory. Megan smiled softly. The cat had led her home,